is the final Thursday of 2017. Do you have big plans for New Year's Eve? Are you going to shoot the works? Or are you going to keep it simple and stay home and relax and try to avoid some of the morons that are out there on New Year's Eve? I don't know. I have no idea what you've got planned. All I can tell you for certain is the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Jeff McAleer once again, and as you may already know, I am the host of the Daily Dope, as well as the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com. So, welcome aboard. It is frigid just about everywhere across the country right now. Hopefully, you are staying warm, you are staying safe, you're being careful out there in frigid conditions, icy roads, things like that. Stay in one piece. Please take a little extra time when you're going to work, going to school. Don't need to be rushing when it's icy outside. Just, it's bad news. Anyway, welcome. Today is Thursday, December 28th. And I have to point out, today is an extremely slow news day. There is not a whole lot that was popping up that I found of interest that I wanted to share. Because one thing, I guess probably most people who follow the Gaming Gang or who've been watching the Daily Dope don't realize is I sort of vet the news a little bit. I'm not real big on sharing info, especially about Kickstarters from companies I'm not overly familiar with, or who have not actually produced a game in the past. And the reason I mention that is because there's actually it looks pretty cool. Don't get me wrong, it looks very, very cool from what I've seen so far. There's a an upcoming Kickstarter that begins in January. I want to say January 12th from River Horse. I believe it's River Horse Games. Might be River Horse Designs. I'm not positive, but it is a Highlander game, which is based on the original Highlander movie. And it looks really neat, but there's really no info out there about it. And all I saw was one image that showed Christopher Lambert, a miniature of Christopher Lambert as Connor McLeod. And it's kind of like, well, I don't necessarily want to share a news piece just for nothing. So I'm mentioning it, but didn't have much info, and really that was the only thing that had popped up. Plus this River Horse company, they've done, what is it, Terminator Genesis, which I have not really heard much for or against. I think that is available. And they've got a Labyrinth game that looks pretty neat, but that hasn't come out yet either. So I don't know. I don't want to I don't share info about Kickstarters unless I know 99% likely that once it funds and it's produced, you get it, because there have been far, far too many Kickstarter projects that have funded and people ended up out of luck. So I don't want anybody ever to come back and say, hey, Jeff, you told me this was something cool to take a look at, and now I'm out my $100 or whatever and never saw it. So anyway, no news today. That is really strange because I have yet to not have any news in addition of the Daily Dope. So if this is the first time you're joining me for the stream, or first time you're watching this after the fact, this is a very conversational show. There is chat. Chat is through YouTube. Even though this does stream on Twitch, already found that get some kind of odd folks jumping in. A little trolly from Twitch. So no Twitch in the chat. So also keep in mind, any questions, comments, suggestions, you can email me at mailbag@thegaminggang.com. And because we've got some time today, and it is Thursday, and on Thursdays I like to kind of discuss role-playing games, I'm going to share a very interesting tip for game masters mainly out there, regardless of what game that you may happen to run, which is another tool to put in your tool shed. And I think you might dig it, because I doubt that anybody's ever talked about this as far as role-playing before. I also have ShutterBug from the fine folks at Calliope Games, and I will be unboxing this in just a few moments. I always do this and block out the mic. Duh. Anyway, so we've got ShutterBug. It's a new game from Calliope Games, designed by Mike Elliott. Looks like some pretty cool artwork too. So we're going to find out who the artist is, because I want to try to give a little more credit to people other than just the designer of a game. So coming up, we've got some ShutterBug action. But I did want to dip into the mailbag for one item, and let me grab a sip here. I'm not going to actually reveal the person who sent this. So their question was, why is the quality of the video so crappy, is the word I'm going to replace from what they had actually sent. And if you've been following, if you've watched this, I don't want to say religiously, but if you've watched The Daily Dope a few times, I have mentioned in the past that, you know, I can only work with the equipment I've got. So in this email, it was talking about, well, how come you don't have, you know, better cameras? And because when I'll do some of the unboxings, today we should be okay as far as the amount of space that we've got to show everything off. But with the unboxings, especially yesterday, I unboxed Here I Stand from GMT, which looks super, super cool. And the board is pretty darn big. And I couldn't really fit it in the shot. I couldn't even really unfold it to get any of it into the shot. And so they had emailed and said, well, how come you don't have a CLR that's suspended above the table, and then you could actually remote control zooming in, zooming out? And hey, trust me, I would love to be able to do that. It's just, when I call this the Duct Tape Studios, I'm not kidding. It's sort of like everything's held together kind of like with duct tape. And it's the equipment that I have available. And I would love to have CLR cameras and everything else and make this really, really sharp and awesome and amazing. It's just, you know, it's the scratch, kids. It's, you know, it's funds. And I am not the sort of person who sits there and you know, I don't do Kickstarters to pull in money. You know, you see down below, it's like, oh, if you want to become a patron, that's cool. You know, $1 or $2 a month, something like that. That's fantastic. I welcome that. Make a one-time donation down there. It's a little PayPal me thing. But I'm not one of these people who expects the audience for, you know, the website or watching the show to be footing the bill. It's just, you know, I'm old school like that. You know, I'm not knocking the people who do that. Now, does that mean I'm never going to have, like, sponsors on this show? No, I'm not saying that at all. I would welcome sponsors, but once again, I would sort of vet those sponsors too. Because, you know, over the years, I've gotten plenty of offers from people to shoot videos for their Kickstarters and to review their Kickstarters and stuff like that. When I took a peek at it, I was sort of like, ew, you know, this doesn't really look all that great. Or something seemed a little fishy about it. And I was like, no. No, you keep your money. I'm just not. So, you know, I would love to be able to have, you know, well, maybe not a CLR right here, because I have that face for radio. I don't know if I necessarily want that crystal clear. But as far as the unboxing, stuff like that, sure. I mean, honestly, I would love to be able to stream in 4K. Can't do it. Plus, our internet here is pretty decent, but certainly not something where I could stream in 4K. So anyway, so that is the answer to that mailbag question that I got. And I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that. They were fairly rude in the email that I got, but I mean that's just the breaks. You know, you got to work with what you can. Well, I guess I'm old school. So when I talk about like the gaming can and can'ts, have nots, I come from the belief that, okay, if you can't afford something, well, that's just the way it is. Try to save up money and be able to buy it. And people know over the years that any monies that came in for the gaming gang really gets sunk back in towards our convention coverage and so on and so forth. It's not like I'm sitting here getting rich and going to hang out with Warren Buffett or Bill Gates anytime soon. So anyways, that's that. But I did want to discuss, because Thursdays I want to try to cover role-playing and do more than just sharing reviews of role-playing games or first looks at role-playing games. I want to use some of the experience that I have from far too many decades of being involved in role-playing games to kind of help newer game masters out, and players too. And I found it sort of funny because on last Saturday, my nephew Cameron, if you've watched some of the previous episodes, my nephew Cameron had a party for his high school friends, stuff like that, holiday party. And I had been asked to bring some games over and, entertain, kind of, that routine. When you got all the games, everybody's like, hey, could you bring over, Carcassonne? Could you bring over Wits and Wagers? Could that kind of thing. So one of his friends was asking me about Dungeons and Dragons, and he said he was really interested in getting into it, but he really didn't know the first thing about it. And I guess his younger brother, and I assume that his friend was about 15, 16 years old, because Cameron's 16. And he was just kind of asking, how do I get into this? So I had mentioned, hey, last Wednesday I kind of talked about getting into role-playing games. So check that out. And I answered a few of his questions and things like that. So to get into what I want to discuss today, one thing that I try to point out, and I do not have anything against shows like Critical Role or Acquisitions Inc. or any of these slew of shows that are now out there and constantly getting more of people gathered around playing role-playing games. I don't have a beef. If that's what you enjoy watching, by all means, watch it. I was going to say knock yourself out, but that's kind of derogatory. I don't mean that. I mean, if you're entertained by these shows, then yes, by all means, watch, enjoy. It's like watching anything. You got your weekly show that you watch. It's like, okay, hey, it's Sunday night, it's Game of Thrones. Some people are like, hey, it's Critical Role night. That's very, very cool. One thing I point out is these streams and these shows are not there to make you a better player or a better game master, dungeon master, keeper, referee, whatever you want to call it. They aren't. They're mainly there to entertain, plus they're kind of advertisements for the game system that they happen to be playing. Once again, I'm completely fine with this. But keep in mind, watching a show like Critical Role is not going to make you a better dungeon master. It's not. And I'll be the first one to point out, in my experience role-playing over the years, if players around the table mugged and wasted time, or as much as they do, I'm not knocking Critical Role. That's a little bit different. But you know what I'm talking about. We've seen some of these new shows that are popping out where the players are constantly kind of mugging and, kind of hamming it up, and they're getting their, 15 seconds of fame. And the game master is like off to the side, like he's some grand supreme being or something like that. If anybody around our table
And I'm not just saying myself running a role-playing game. I'm talking about my best friend Elliot Miller, Scott Weagle, Tim Phelan, any of the guys that I grew up with gaming. If you had pulled those kind of routines at the table, the game would have been over. So I'm just saying, you're not going to learn to be a better player or GM by watching these. So anyway, so I want to roll out something that I feel is going to make you a better game master. Not necessarily a player, but a better game master. And it's kind of unusual, and it's sort of something that people may not ever think about. But I have found over the years, listening to old-time radio shows has made me a better game master. And you'll think, what? Are you kidding? You have to remember that in its truest sense, a role-playing game is a very oral kind of game. People have miniatures and they draw maps and all that stuff. So for me, that's a distraction. To me, miniatures in a role-playing game is a distraction. Plus, it's a crutch that some game masters will utilize. And I know game companies out there are like, yeah, I'm good. You ain't gonna smack you, Jeff. Don't be telling people don't be buying our miniatures and standees and stuff. Just my opinion, folks. That's all it is. Just my opinion. Anyway, but if you listen to old-time radio shows, keep in mind, these were produced mainly when there was no television. So in order to get the story across, you had to be able to hear it, and your imagination put the pictures in place of what's going on. And that works especially well when you adapt those kind of techniques and theories, storytelling theories, to role-playing games. And I definitely recommend a few particular shows that you can listen to. Old episodes of The Shadow, when Orson Welles was the Shadow, and that was for like about the first year. So you're talking about 1938 these shows are from. But really interesting, especially if you're into, like pulp kind of games, kind of pulp RPGs, you definitely want to listen to The Shadow. You want to check out Green Hornet. And the reason behind it, it's sort of funny because when I listen to these old episodes of The Shadow, and I think the actor who came after Orson Welles was Brett Morrison. I know he played the Shadow, but I think that was when he took over. The first few years of the Shadow are real kind of odd sort of pulp action. As the show goes on, it becomes more of Lois Lane. Duh. Margot Lane finds herself constantly being kidnapped by gangsters, and it just becomes kind of a wash and repeat, rinse and repeat over and over. It's the Shadow going and saving Margot, and just kind of gangsters. It loses its whole kind of supernatural feel to it. So, but if you listen to older episodes from the late 30s, early 40s, it'll give you some great ideas for some cool pulp stories, plus a little bit of horror. And you can also listen to how do you create an atmosphere without using anything visually. Now, of course, I'm not talking about sometimes it's sort of like, Margot, do you see the man across the street wearing the brown jacket with the blue hat reading the newspaper? That's kind of hokey, but keeping in mind it was all over the radio, you had to kind of, that kind of exposition had to be used. Some other shows you can listen to, especially if you're interested in running horror, you can listen to Inner Sanctum. That's pretty famous. One of my favorite shows is Quiet Please, and very, very unique horror stories. Many of these horror tales, if you go to thegaminggang.com, every Halloween for the month, every night, it's every night pretty much, I put out another old-time radio show that's it's spooky, that's horror related. And you can easily go and check some of those out on the Gaming Gang. It's our Halloween Spooktacular is what I like to call it. And I challenge anyone to listen to the thing on the 4-bowl board and tell me that is not a creepy and spooky story. So another show I would recommend, and this is more along the lines of you don't even need to be thinking about the genre because it's a Western. Just the use of sound and how sound tells the story. And that would be Gunsmoke. And that is a later show. That's the late 50s. And just listen to a few episodes of Gunsmoke and just hear how effectively they utilize silence, which of course in radio, that's death, right? Oh my gosh, there's like 10 seconds of silence. What's happening? Gunsmoke utilizes just ambient noise and silence extremely well. And that's something as a game master you should probably use more of. Believe it or not, sometimes you can really drive home like an action point of your game by laying it out there and zipping your lip and just sitting back and allowing the players to do their thing. So, old-time radio shows, number one, they're free. You don't have to pay anything for them, and don't get suckered into going to some website that tells you that, oh yeah, you've got to, we've got CDs and stuff like that. Absolutely not. Archive.org is a fantastic website to go to track down old-time radio shows and listen to them. Absolutely free. Converted to MP3. Take them on the go. You'd be surprised how tiny just even an hour-long program is an MP3 from an old-time radio show. It's usually about 8 to 10 megs. It's really, a lot of times, smaller than a new song that just came out. So archive.org is fantastic. Many, many websites out there. And I can't recommend highly enough listening to some old-time radio shows. Not just to get a feel for how to deliver a story, or also dialogue. Very good for creating fairly realistic dialogue for your NPCs. If you go, in that direction, because I know some people, they run role-playing games and really only the main villain gets a voice. Everybody else is just sort of, well, this Omar the tent maker says this, tells you this. They don't really go too far into character. So, of course, it's absolutely up to you how you like to run your role-playing games. But it also helps you get an ear for dialogue. Also gives you a good ear for creating a story and tempo to a story. Now, keep in mind, this is all just if you like running a role-playing game where the story is the main driving point of the game. That's how I've always run role-playing games. Call of Cthulhu has always been the game that I ran the vast majority of times. And my CFC games were not super, super combat heavy. Always focused more on story and building atmosphere, creating tension. Once again, something listening to old-time radio shows will really help you do. So there's just a kind of a tip for folks out there who are interested in kind of bringing their game mastering, dungeon mastering, keepering to a kind of the next level. Because I've said before, and I will say on Thursdays when I take a little time out to kind of discuss RPGs and that, a good game master has a lot of tools in their toolbox. You don't necessarily have to use them all the time, but it's good to have those available. And one thing I've always drawn some inspiration from as far as being a game master is Stephen King's book on writing. Kind of odd that I would maybe point that out. But once again, Stephen King is real big about, load up your toolbox. Load up your creative toolbox so you always have these at your fingertips to use. All right, so I know some folks are tuning in live and they want to see ShutterBug from Calliope Games, and I'm gonna wait about 20 minutes. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. This is actually gonna be probably the shortest episode of the Daily Dope yet, because we don't have any news, because usually the news occupies a good half hour talking about what's going on with the world of tabletop gaming. Anyway, so like I said, this might end up being the shortest episode of the Daily Dope yet. Anyway, so I want to move on. We're going to take a look at ShutterBug from Calliope Games. And the folks over at Calliope were very kind to provide me with the 3 latest games that just came out. So I've got ShutterBug, Ancestry, and Capital City. So we're going to be taking looks at all 3 of the games, of course, do unboxings and provide some reviews too. And okay, just in case I need them, I got the old reading glasses. But to be honest, I don't think the print's going to be real small on this. So the premise of ShutterBug is that, you know what? Let me get another sip here. It's awfully dry. It's cold in the Duct Tape Studios, and it's really dry this week. Yum, 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 yum. Nothing like straight whiskey to keep. No. It's Diet Pepsi, guys. All right. So the premise of ShutterBug is each of the players, and it's for 2 to 6 players, are photographers, and they are crisscrossing the U.S. in search of mystical and mythical creatures to snap photos of in order to sell them to tabloids. And it's supposed to be like 1930, 32. And I always point out this, when I do an unboxing, I do not do tons of research on a game. I like to be surprised, like you will when you open up a box from a game. For the most part, all I really have available to me, well, not, I have more than that available. All I really utilize is maybe the sell sheet information, kind of get an idea about the game, and then we take it from there. So it is for 2 to 6 players. It's ages 8 and up, so perfect for family game night. And it plays in about 20 to 50 minutes, and I would assume that time frame is dependent upon how many players. So just taking a peek at the back here, 1932. The world is fascinated by rumors of monstrous creatures hiding throughout America. As a determined freelance photographer with a secret assignment from a national tabloid, you will crisscross the countryside, racing to find and take pictures of these astounding mythical creatures. You'll gather and trade tips to build a portfolio of fantastic photos, trying to fulfill your secret assignment and a few side jobs along the way. Time is short, the right tip is priceless, and every photo gets you closer to fame and fortune. What are you waiting for? Grab your camera and field notes, stay one step ahead of your rivals, and race to a photo finish as the greatest ShutterBug of all time. Okay, so take the old hobby knife out, get this opened up. And yes, this is a real unboxing. I always say that with the unboxings. I didn't cheat. I didn't take the plastic off, read the rule book, and pretend that I'm, you know, super psychic or, whoa, obviously it uses this mechanic. All right, so let's get this on open. And this box has some heft to it, I have to point out. As we can see, we're opening it up, and I don't see a whole lot of just empty air. So it says, Photographer's Journal, March 31st, October 32. Wow, so this is it for the rules. Nice. Especially for family gamers there. Okay, so it's showing the components, showing your objective, and crisscross America, gathering tip cards to take photographs of hidden creatures in the wilderness. At the end of 8 rounds, the winner is the player who provides the best quality photos in fulfilling their secret assignments and completed side jobs. So it's showing we've got the game board, 48 creature photo tiles, 48 tip cards, 6 character pawns. What is that? Oh, for 2-player games, it's saying you're just going to use the red and blue. 6 player turn order cards, 1 round token, 1 first player token, 72 secret assignment cards, a photo draw bag, and 24 side job markers, 4 each in 6 colors. Okay. Showing us the setup of the game. Alright, shuffling the creature photo cards, shuffling the secret assignment cards. Got the maps, kind of showing us the setup. And we've got gameplay. As I mentioned, it takes place over 8 rounds. You're going to populate the board. You're going to move your character and perform actions. You're going to trade tips. You're going to draw tips. Take a photograph. What? These guys can't take selfies? What's wrong with these creatures? Okay, let's take the photograph. I wonder if there's, because it said best quality photos, I wonder if there's any way to determine, I don't know, I wonder if the quality is on the card, the quality of it, or something that you do is going to determine that. Okay, it's talking about discarding tips, ending a round, your secret assignment. Yeah. Talks about side jobs, ending the game, and winning. All right, so the illustrations are from Shar Reed. So I wanted to make sure that I gave some credit out to the illustrator, because it looks like some pretty cool art in here. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. I should point out one thing I'm looking to try to do. It would probably be maybe next weekend, which I'm sorry, I don't do shows over the weekend. Is I might be able to meet with Chris, is it Letter from Calliope Games, because he actually happens to live in the area, and they've got the Mansky Caper coming to Kickstarter. So I am probably going to sit down and actually interview Chris and maybe even get a close look at the Mansky Caper before it hits Kickstarter. So that is something that I'm trying to put together. Okay, so we got the game board here. So we will do this last, and it doesn't look too big. So we should be cool with that. Ooh, look at the goodies. Look at the goodies. All right, so we've got, I believe it said that was the first player token. Man, that is it's a nice thick counter. Really can't tell, but nice and thick. Always dig that. Oh, we got a little standee too. Maybe that's your standee. Pop it around. The standee could be for something else too. I don't know. Then we have. I can find out how this little bag is closed here. How is this sealed? There we go. Take a look. All right, so were these the side jobs? Maybe been the side jobs. So we've got these tokens here. Then we got the meeples. Oh, well, they're photographers. Maybe they're feeples? I don't know. Take a quick peek. And I kind of dig how, if you take a close look, They're wearing little hats. There you go. Getting ready to snap off some shots there. And we got a draw bag. Hey, cool. That's a nice draw bag. It's got ShutterBug on it. And I believe this is where you're going to put the creature tiles, which I can see are right here. So let's pop these on out. Oh my God. There we go. All right, let's, and I'm not going to show them all off because you want to have some surprises. Okay. So I see here we've got a Pegasus. Oh. Certainly look like a Pegasus to me. I wonder, is that an undeveloped photo? Shows a 3 on both sides, and there is an icon in that upper left corner. There you go. Maybe maybe this is the quality. Maybe, well, didn't get a very good shot. Whereas, wow, that's a good shot. That's a good photo. The Daily Bugle paid big money for that. Maybe Weekly World News. And I'm taking a guess, maybe these numbers down at the bottom are the number of victory points that they're worth. That looks almost like, what is that, a jackalope? Oh, looks like these are both the same. Yeah, so there's a few little duplicates in here. Cool. Cool, so there are 72 of these. And I'm just going to put them in the draw bag. Because that's where they'll end up when we're playing it for the review. And these are nice, thick counters too. So that's cool. This struck me as a fun game. So do the other two titles that Calliope sent along. But because, you know, I'm into kind of like horror games, and now this is not a horror game, obviously enough. But since I dig horror games and stuff, I wanted to kind of crack this one open first. All right, better use the hobby knife. So I believe, are these all tip cards? Speaking of tips, how about sending me some money? No, I'm kidding. I am joking. Okay, so these are all tip cards. Let's put this down for a sec. And then we've got bigger, almost tarot. Well, these are pretty much tarot card size. Okay, let's get this open here. So I can see, let's get some of this plastic. So we've got the turn order cards, and there were 6. Okay, so we got the turn order. Guessing we'll have a different picture for each photographer, but everything's going to stay the same. Yep, there we go. And it looks like we've got 6 male and 3 male and 3 female, which as our turn order is, populate the 7 spaces, move 1, 2, or 3 spaces, trade tips. I'm taking a guess you need to be in the same location as another photographer to trade tips. Move through city, you draw a card. End in city, you draw 2 cards. Take photograph, and pass the bag. Oh, and if we look, their hat is indicating, as we saw those little counters, they had different icons. So it's like, what, the women have hats, the men have shoes? No, this kid's got a hat. This guy's got a hat. Huh, okay. All right. But that helps you as far as tracking whatever these tokens here, these little round tokens, which I think were the side job tokens. Okay, so we've got that. Then we've got, oh, looks like these are the different newspapers. Ah, so these, okay, so these are the tips, or secrets. Duh, these are the tips, Jeff. These are the secret card, and I'm taking a guess. All right, so it's showing, so it's got the World Informer and the Chatterbox. And those are the silhouettes of the different creatures. And I'm taking a stab that maybe those are victory points that those are worth. Don't know, haven't played the game. Let's take a look at a few of these. Look here. The National Acquirer. I wonder if there's the weekly weird news. I wonder if that's one of them. News of the Earth. Guess not. Weekly daily news. Okay. The weekly daily news. Cool. All right. So those are the secret cards. And there are quite a lot of them in this deck. Okay, so we got the secrets. It's secret, squirrel. And then we've got the tips. And it's going to show the creatures here. And then sort of like location. If you see the icon up here, this little circle up here, it's kind of showing kind of a creature silhouette on one side and then like an environment on the other. So I suppose it would be, you would find this in the desert. Oh yeah, he looks awfully friendly. Oh yeah. I like this art. This art looks cool. Oh, see, there we go. So changed. If you look at the icon now, it's got a little forest, little tree there. Then we got mountains. That's what that little symbol on the tile was, where they're located. Okay, so this is, I guess these are like fields, would be my guess, as far as the icon that's there on the right. Grassland, a Midwest sort of thing. Then, I'm guessing swamp. It's in the swamp there. And then it looks like that's the beach, coastal areas. Keeping in mind this game is for ages 8 and up, it's not going to be too complex. Okay, so we've got the first player. Put that on in there. Let's take a look at the game board. Oops. Oh, huh. So it's dual-sided. That's kind of cool. They didn't have to do that. Here, take a look at the back. This is a little extra coolness here. Map of the U.S. Got the card there. Secret card tips. Little newspaper clippings and that down here. So like somebody's checklist. Oh, okay. Make sure I got a film, camera, journal, sighting log, contact list, train tickets. Don't forget your train tickets. Okay, so there are 4 different types of creatures, it looks like here. So all 4 creatures. Oh, this must be some scoring here. 4 photos of the same terrain. Same creature in all 3 photo qualities. Oh, okay, so this up a little bit. So I saw where it was kind of dimmed, and I said, oh, it kind of looks like a jackalope. I guess that's a poor quality. Then you've got better quality, and then probably crystal clear. Then you've got all 6 terrains. Then we've got a hexagonal map that's representing the U.S. So New York, Chicago, New Orleans, LA, Miami, and Seattle are the cities that are indicated. And then, once again, down here on the bottom, which I can't really push it further enough so you can see, here, just like on the player aids, the little player aid cards, it's also showing what the turn order is. And then, I'll turn this a little bit so we can get in a shot. And then you're going to use that. That must be like the round token that almost looks like a viewfinder. That must be, put it here so you can mark your rounds, and then the 8th round, the game is over. Nice. Looks pretty sweet. I have to be honest, I had never seen a Calliope game close up. Any of them. I just, yeah, and I know it's kind of funny because people say, oh, how could you not have played this game? Or how could you not have played a game from such and such company? And it's sort of like, well, gotta realize the gaming gang isn't, tons of guys. You know, it's a vast majority of the stuff is done by me. So we've got the game board. We have the secret cards, the tip cards. These were the little player aids I was just talking about right here. So we've got those. We've got the photographer meeples. We've got the first player token in the little standee. Here's that round one I was just talking about. Which of course can't get past this red one here. Come on. There. This black one here. That's no doubt what you're using for the kind of turn marker. Then we've got these tokens here. Got the draw bag with the, I believe it was 72, somewhere around there. Tiles, the creature tiles. All right, let's see. How is everything gonna fit? Might be kind of a tight squeeze. Looks like it might be. All right, well, I can always fix that later. So we've got the board and the rule fold-out, which is effectively 3 pages of rules, so not overly complex. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we find when we take everything from ShutterBug outside the box. ShutterBug is available right now, and you can find it at any of, well, I shouldn't say any. You can find it at your friendly local gaming store, I would hope, or, of course, any of your online retailers. It did come out just before Christmas. In fact, it came out Christmas, well, no, it's a week before Christmas. I keep forgetting Christmas was a Monday. That just threw me so far off. It's just weird. It's like today, I keep thinking, oh, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. No, it's not. It's Thursday because Christmas was on Monday. So it came out last week. So all 3 Calliope releases, ShutterBug, Ancestry, and Capital City, all came out last Tuesday, Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday is usually release day. Speaking of, got Capital City right here. So we will be taking a look at Capital City next week. Ancestry, I will be cracking open as well next week. And with Capital City, it's an Old West game where, and it looks, if we take a peek, As you can see, it's got kind of a too much glare. There we go. Kind of tilted a little bit. It's sort of got anamorphic animals. I think that's a term, isn't it? Anamorphic. So, but it is a game where you're kind of entrepreneurs in the Old West, and you're trying to make the biggest impact on the town or city, I guess, to be named mayor at the end. Then we got Ancestry, and Ancestry is a game where, to my knowledge, you're going to use these tiles that create a family tree. I'll just give you a closer peek there. So you're going to use this, and you'll have these tiles. You'll create a family tree, and the whole point is you're trying to make the most interesting family tree, I believe. So that seems kind of neat. So we've got that, and tomorrow, because tomorrow is actually Fridays around here is kind of like family friendly Friday. I have a section on thegaminggang.com, which is Family Fun Zone, where I kind of put like the family game news and stuff like that. Got Welcome to Centerville, yes, from Chad Jensen, from my good friends over at GMT Games, and I will be reviewing this tomorrow. So that is what's cooking for the rest of the week. Well, I shouldn't say rest of the week. Today, see, I keep thinking it's Wednesday. It's Thursday. Tomorrow is the final show for the week. Got some stuff cooking for January already. As I mentioned, trying to do some interviews. I've mentioned this a few times on the show. Probably over this weekend, I'll play around with Skype a little bit, because I have obviously been getting used to this whole streaming and the cameras and all this other stuff. But I am going to play around with Skype a little bit, because I do want to start getting some interviews into the show. And I should have, I know I've got 2 giveaways coming up for January. Trying to work on some other stuff too, maybe some promo stuff. And also over the weekend, I am going to play around a little bit as far as how loud it is in the evenings here. Because I know far, far more people would watch live if the Daily Dope was airing in the evening. But I don't know if I can pull that off. I mentioned before, the living room is directly above, and TV on and things like that can be pretty loud. So I'm going to play around. But I don't mind doing the show in the afternoon. It's kind of cool. But I have had multiple people ask, how come you're not doing it at night? It's kind of like, well, I don't get to call all the shots. Nobody make noise or anything like that. So anyway, that is it for today's show. And yes, we are clocking in as the shortest episode of the Daily Dope to date. Usually minimum an hour. There's been some shows over 90 minutes. I almost hit 2 hours the other day when we were doing, I want to say it was the Wild Blue Yonder review. Anywho, when you aren't catching the Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill by now. It's been around since 2010. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And once again, I am your host, Jeff McAleer. Thank you so much for joining me again, and I will be back tomorrow. So until then, definitely enjoy the rest of your Thursday.